Bonjour Mesdames et Messieurs, bienvenue au briefing de midi de la Commission européenne. Vous avez, j'espère, eu l'occasion d'écouter le briefing technique qui vient en amont de la conférence de presse du vice-président Tajani sur une industrie européenne plus forte pour la croissance et la reprise économique. C'est en effet la politique européenne, la politique industrielle qui était à l'ordre du jour du Collège aujourd'hui. Le Collège vient de terminer sa réunion adoptant cette communication qui vous sera présentée par le vice-président Tajani et où il y aura bien sûr l'occasion de continuer à poser des questions au vice-président sur cette communication. Je sais que vous avez encore beaucoup de questions à poser sur ce sujet suite au briefing technique. L'autre sujet sur la table de la Commission aujourd'hui était bien sûr le paquet élargissement 2012, paquet qui vous sera présenté par le commissaire Füle, qui est actuellement au Parlement européen et qui sera ici en salle de presse à 13h30 pour effectivement vous présenter tous les éléments relatifs à ce paquet, comprenant un document de stratégie, une étude de faisabilité en vue d'un accord de stabilisation et d'association avec le Kosovo, les principales conclusions du rapport global de suivi sur les préparations d'adhésion de la Croatie, ainsi que des rapports de suivi sur les autres pays candidats et candidats potentiels, et pour finir, le rapport global de suivi sur les préparations d'adhésion de la Croatie, que j'ai mentionné 2 fois, pardon. Donc, voici ce qui était au cœur de l'agenda du Collège aujourd'hui, ainsi qu'un débat d'orientation pour préparer l'adoption de l'examen annuel de croissance version 2013. Ceci sera à l'ordre du jour du Collège le 28 novembre. Vous savez que l'examen annuel de croissance est un des outils essentiels que nous avons à notre disposition pour délivrer une plus grande coordination de nos politiques économiques. Cet examen annuel de croissance marque chaque année le début du semestre européen en examinant justement les réformes économiques en cours, en identifiant des lacunes possibles et, si nécessaire, en identifiant des nouvelles priorités pour l'action pour les 12 mois à venir, donc en regardant à l'avant. Et donc, ceci sera donc fait le 28 novembre. Le Collège a eu un débat préparatoire de cet exercice clé pour notre gouvernance économique aujourd'hui. Et ceci clôture ce que j'avais à vous dire. Et maintenant, vos questions avant la conférence de presse du vice-président Tajani.
Gaspar Sebag with Europolitics. I've got a question about the negative effects of fiscal consolidation on growth. The IMF in the World Economic Outlook, IMF staff research shows that the effects of austerity have been underestimated by 2 or 3 times. And I would have a question because this has obviously implications on how the Troika, on the policy recommendations of the Troika, and I would like to hear the Commission, what the Commission has to say on this topic, especially in light of the fact that Hannes Swoboda has called upon the Commission and the Council to apologize because of these harsh measures, and which have been based on elements which are said to be incorrect. Thanks.
And I'm sure we'll be happy to come up and give you our position on this. As you have heard from us many times, the fiscal consolidation strategy that we are pursuing is one that favors growth. You've heard it many times over the last few weeks. You will hear it again, not least in this exercise of the annual growth survey that I have just pointed to, but Simon on the specific news context of the day.
Hi, good afternoon. Gaspard, Vice President Wren answered a question on this yesterday at the press conference following the ECOFIN. In his answer, he took note of the IMF study, as I do indeed. I'm not going to comment on it in detail. What I can say is basically to repeat what Vice President Wren said, which is that we know there is always some short-term impact on growth as a result of fiscal consolidation in the short term, but you also have to take into account a number of other factors, the effect on confidence, which is perhaps more difficult to quantify, and a number of other factors, obviously, in terms of working out the appropriate pace for fiscal consolidation. We have always stressed that fiscal consolidation should be smart, should protect areas which will be where investment should be maintained because essential for future growth. But beyond that, there's not a great deal I have to say on it, and I have no comment on the comments you referred to of Mr. Swoboda.
Okay, thank you very much. Anne Cahill, on this same subject. Anne?
The IMF, it's not 240 pages, 3 pages, page 41 to 43 in the first chapter of the WEO. It says that the way they have been measuring the effect on growth of austerity, of taking money out of the economy, has been wrong and has been getting increasingly wrong, especially since 2009. They also looked at the European Commission forecasts and found that they were not quite as wrong as the IMF, but almost. So perhaps this isn't a question for you, Simon, but whoever is doing the figures on what austerity measures, what impact they'll have, is this something that will interest the Commission? Is it something that they will reflect on? Is it something that maybe they will revise the way they do their sums in future? Thank you.
Thing that interests us, and as I've said, we've taken note of this IMF study, and I'm sure a number of people within the Commission will read it with interest. I mean, as regards our own modelling and our own projections of the impact of fiscal consolidation, as I said, a number of factors need to be taken into account. There is a short-term impact on growth, but also you need to take into account the impact of confidence, the impact that the impact on market perceptions of a country that is considered to be seriously addressing issues of fiscal sustainability or not. The impact that has on bond yields and so on. So there are a number of elements to this issue, and it's not something that I can get into here on the podium. But as I say, we of course take note of the report, and we'll look into it.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon. Oliver Grimm, on something different, still for Simon or for somebody else? Let's just see if there are other questions for Simon while he's here. Anne? Another one?
It's about another issue, Pia, if I may. It's this time wearing my API hat. We're rather concerned about a number of interviews that have appeared in selected media today, mainly from Commissioner Tajani on the reports issued today. Our concern is that some commissioners seem to be really discriminating against the media in general, and perhaps even some would feel that they are involved in some sort of manipulation. Because if any of us here ask you in advance about a decision that is to be made by the college, you will naturally tell us that that decision is not yet made, and therefore you can't give us those details. And even in top news, for instance, where you give some indication of what's coming up, you don't mention the decision, in this case the 25% by 2020 isn't mentioned in that. But we find that the Commissioner has made contact with specific media in advance of us being told here and in advance of the college making the decision, and has been given this information on the record. So now in today's media, all of this is there, and it's old news, and the rest of us that don't have it, we really feel there's discrimination at work here. We appreciate that this isn't perhaps your doing, but we do have, API on behalf of the journalists does have an agreement, and we really would like to know that this practice will somehow or other be discontinued, and that the journalists who are here will be treated equally, that either we'll all be privy to this information in advance on the record, or that we won't. Thank you very much for allowing me the time here.
Okay, thank you, Anne, for your intervention. I think this is maybe most suited for discussions between us, as we indeed have regular exchanges on these issues, where, as you know, we do go out of our way indeed to ensure that the agreements between us are respected. And with your specific reference today, again, my understanding is that what has been done here has been to respond to some interview requests, which regularly happens. Of course, many of you here request interviews with our commissioners ahead of indeed important initiatives such as the one Vice President Tajani will be presenting here in this room today. Indeed, looking at the commissioners' work, the political priorities that they reflect, and that's what I understand has been done today, where Vice President Tajani will come here and give you specific figures which are adopted today by the college, whereas he has indeed been framing these proposals in response to interview requests by your colleagues. And that's what I can say about this specific instance now. I'm happy to discuss it further and have further exchanges on it, but maybe that's best done outside this room. You nevertheless want to follow up with a second question?
I do, Pia. Thank you very much. I just want to clarify. Nobody is against the Commissioner giving interviews in advance. We're all very happy to get them. We're happy for our colleagues to get them. But if there is information that we won't be given on the record here in public, given to everybody, then the Commissioner should not be in a position to select journalists to give this information on record to. And as you know, we have an agreement as well that if that does happen, that then you send out a rapid to everybody with this. And I don't know how his fellow college feel about some people being told the decision is made, in fact, before it's made. I don't require a response from you, of course, from this, and thank you very much for your response to date. But I just want to ensure that our colleagues don't think that we're trying to prevent anybody getting interviews. Of course we're not.
Thank you very much, Anne. As I said, my understanding is that here we're talking about today's decisions having indeed been framed in a political interview with the Vice President, but of course the Vice President is here to answer all your questions very shortly, so I suggest that you put all the difficult questions to him on the substance, because I know he'll be very happy to answer them. Let's change the subject now and go ahead.
Hi, Beatrice Dennis for ANS Europe. I have a question about industrial policy. A number of scrap industries complain that too much scrap is exported, therefore depriving EU industry from precious raw materials, including the aluminum industry, who mentioned this at the consultation. And some of them are asking for EU legislation limiting exports to foreign operators which apply the same environmentally friendly conditions. Is that something that the Commission would be looking into? I mean, I've only looked at briefly at the communication, but I didn't see anything about it in it.
Put that question at the press conference if you didn't already have the opportunity to put it at the technical briefing. I realized that there was not much time for questions, so why don't you take it up in the press conference, or if you prefer in the margins with Carlo Corazza, who will be happy to respond to your question on this. Other questions? Oliver, I forgot you. Apologies.
Yeah, I have a question concerning yesterday's meeting of the Commission President with the singer of a quite well-known Irish pop band. Did the Commission President take the occasion to ask this singer about the ethical and moral reasons for moving his taxable income out of Ireland and into a Dutch tax saving stichting, I think about 6 years ago, and thereby actually barely paying no more tax in Ireland, but actually paying very low tax rates in a Dutch stichting construction. And I'm particularly interested because on the very same day you actually were very happy, like actually 11 member states, to move forward with the financial transaction tax. But you actually have 4 tax havens within the Eurozone who don't participate. You have Cyprus, Ireland, the Netherlands and Luxembourg. So my question is, did the Commission President talk to Mr. Bono about his personal tax avoidance plans? Did he at least raise this issue? And secondly, what's the merit of having a financial transaction tax if 4 tax havens within the Eurozone don't participate? How do you want to avoid tax avoidance? Sorry to ask it now, but you started a bit late and it's an important question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oliver, for the financial transaction tax. Emer is happy, I think, to come and give you a short answer. On your first question, Oliver, no, I can confirm the singer Bono's personal taxation was not at all discussed with President Barroso, and for a good reason. Bono was here to see President Barroso as the founder of, or the co-founder of the One campaign, as you know, and indeed what the President joined forces with Bono about, and what he has done since 2005, by the way, is fighting extreme poverty and preventing disease. And indeed, I invite you, in light of the fact that Vice President Tajani has already arrived, to check the statement the President issued on that occasion, which gives you, I think, a full overview of the issues that were discussed on that context, and which of course had at its heart, to indeed push for an increase in external aid for the next European budget for 2014 to 20, so that we are better equipped to make a difference in fighting extreme poverty and preventing disease in the developing world. Emer for the FTT.
Yes, just very briefly, obviously with the upcoming press conference, but for those of you who are not aware, yesterday at the finance ministers meeting in Luxembourg, 11 member states announced that they were ready to move ahead with an EU financial transaction tax based on what the Commission proposed last year. Currently we have letters from 7 member states officially requesting this, so we need the others to send their letters soon, so that we have the minimum 9 for the Commission to take the next step and propose its decision on to authorise a financial transaction tax. Dealing directly with your question, Oliver, in fact the group that of 11 member states represent about 90% of the Eurozone GDP, so it's quite a significant portion of the Eurozone. But circumnavigating this tax is very difficult in the way we've designed it. We have put what's called the residence principle in place, which means that even if the transaction takes place somewhere else, if there's any link to the participating member states in the financial transaction tax, if there's any link between those member states and the transaction will be taxed. We feel that this is a very strong safety net against relocation and against tax avoidance of the financial transaction tax.
Okay, thanks very much. If there are no other questions on this particular issue, we will leave the floor to Vice President Tajani, who is now here to talk to you about the industrial policy communication that the College has just agreed.